This episode is brought to you by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to sign up using the link in the description will get their first 2 months free. On April 15, 1912, at 2:20 in the morning, the British ocean liner Titanic disappeared into the depths of the North Atlantic Ocean about 400 miles south of Newfoundland, Canada. It took 3,000 men 2 years to build this massive ship. Its huge hull was held together by 3 million rivets, and it could transport 2,200 passengers and crew. But having struck an iceberg, the ship took on water before sinking 12,600 feet to the dark depths, never to be fully salvaged. Today, we ask why. In this episode of the Infographic Show, why is Titanic still at the bottom of the ocean? Before we answer this question, let's first look at what we know about Titanic's last few days at sea. On April 10th, the RMS Titanic departed Southampton, England on its maiden voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic was designed by the Irish shipbuilder Thomas Andrews, and it was owned by Bruce Ismay. It was thought to be unsinkable. The ship traveled to Cherbourg, France and Queenstown, Ireland to pick up some passengers before setting out into the Atlantic full steam ahead to New York. On its first journey across the highly competitive Atlantic ferry route, the ship carried some 2,200 passengers and crew. Just before midnight on April 14th, the Titanic collided with an iceberg which smashed into at least 5 of its hull compartments. As these compartments filled with water, the bow of the ship was pulled down until it was almost vertical. Then the Titanic broke in half before sinking to its end. More than 1,500 people died, either by being dragged down with the ship or freezing to death in the icy North Atlantic waters. It took nearly an hour and a half for help to arrive, but more than 700 people were saved. Most of those survivors were women and children. Milvina Dean was the last living survivor of the Titanic. She passed away on May 31st, 2009. Milvina was just 9 weeks old when the Titanic sank. So what do we know about the wrecked remains of this big vessel? Firstly, we've already mentioned that the ship sank to 12,600 feet. That's a long way down. In fact, it's over 2 miles at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. It's pitch black and hard to access with extremely high water pressure. The ship also snapped into 2 pieces, which actually lay 1,970 feet apart from one another on the ocean floor. The New York Times ran an article about an expedition run by Dr. Robert D. Ballard to find the wreck. It took 11 dives to locate the debris, but the remains of Titanic were located on July 14, 1986, 74 years after it sank. On completing the mission, Ballard was quoted as saying, "I feel very confident the Titanic will never be raised. It would be impossible to pull it out of the bottom. Extensive rust has left the Titanic very fragile," he said. Its stern section, a shambles of wreckage, is about 2,000 feet astern of the bow half. Why the 2 parts are so widely separated remains a mystery. Following Ballard's discovery, there were a number of other trips, and between July and September 1987, an expedition mounted by I. Fremer and a consortium of American investors made 32 dives to Titanic using the submersible Nautile. Somewhat controversially, they recovered and brought ashore more than 1,800 objects. Then, in 1996, there was an ambitious attempt to raise a section of Titanic itself, a section of the outer hull that originally comprised part of the wall of 2 first-class cabins on C deck extending down to D deck. It weighed 20 tons, measured 15 by 25 feet, and had 4 portholes in it. British newspaper The Independent reported that the high-tech expedition to raise the Titanic used flotation bags filled with diesel fuel, which is lighter than water and could withstand the high pressure found at such depths. Over a 6-day period, the so-called lift bags were attached to the section of the hull with specially constructed cables. But when the bags were jettisoned to begin gently lifting the hull to the surface, only 4 of the 6 successfully launched. To salvage the mission, a submersible equipped with mechanical arms, which was owned by the French government, was brought in to save the day. Former astronaut Edwin Buzz Aldrin even joined the crew to add additional expertise. The crew succeeded, and the huge section of the ship was lifted more than 2 miles from the seabed by the flotation balloons. Onlookers paid as much as $6,000 to view the expedition from 2 ships nearby. So the Titanic has not been fully recovered, but then a big section has been, which in itself is quite an achievement. Is there still a chance to go back and recover more of the shipwreck? Maybe not. Earlier this year, the BBC reported that the hull might eventually disappear altogether, as scientists have said that a species of bacteria is slowly eating away its iron construction. However, if you have enough spare cash, there will soon be a once-in-a-lifetime tourist opportunity to glide around the Titanic's wreck. American company OceanGate is planning to dive to the wreck site in 2019. The first voyage is already fully booked at a hefty price tag of over $105,000 per person. And the Bluefish, a self-described experiential concierge firm, is also planning Titanic trips around the same time. so at least there's a chance to get a glimpse before she disappears forever. We hope you enjoyed this special episode of the Infographics Show and the more involved animation. If you are ever curious about how animation like this is done, we suggest taking a class over at Skillshare called Animating with Ease in After Effects. The class focuses on how to prep for animation, lay out your objects, ease the motion, and more. This is just one of the many classes offered by Skillshare. In fact, they offer over 20,000. If animation isn't what you're interested in, Skillshare offers classes in other categories such as finance, web development, film production, and writing. The first 1,000 people to sign up by visiting Skillshare.com/infographics24 or clicking the link in the description will receive 2 months of Skillshare absolutely free. Join Skillshare and start learning today. Is it worth paying more than $100,000 to see the Titanic? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called What Actually Happens in the Bermuda Triangle. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!